to that.
Yeah.
You said one thing. You said that where we were last week, that it certainly was not satisfactory a week ago. Should the interpretation be that the things in the ensuing week that's not satisfactory? I know you said it's dire, that it's not pristine, but are these satisfactory measures essentially?
These are steps that we think that are responsive in part to the letter that the secretary sent. It addresses some of the specific concerns that that letter raised. Again, I'll use the Jordan corridor as an example. That letter from Secretary Blinken in Austin expressed some areas of improvement that can be made on the Jordan corridor. One of the steps that I shared with you today was an example of such a metric. There's also been additional border crossings open and additional routes opening. So there have been new things that we're seeing. The overall humanitarian situation in Gaza continues to remain unsatisfactory, but in the context of the letter, it's not about whether we find something satisfactory or not. It's that what are the actions that we're seeing. These actions that we have seen, we think that these are steps in the right direction. We want to see more steps. We want to see these steps sustained over a significant period of time, and ultimately, we want to see these steps have a result on the situation on the ground, and that's what we're going to continue to be engaged on.
Sure. A number of people have asked you about the 30-day deadline, how that obviously came after the election, and how the administration doesn't have much time left. I mean, is there a sense that perhaps this is a sign that the leverage is gone, that this current administration has? It's not so long before.
Again, Sean, the 30-day time period was not about any particular day on a calendar, and it certainly wasn't about electoral politics. It's that things take time. It's that processes, especially in such a volatile region, sometimes take time to unearth and to move forward. And so today we have seen some progress in that space. We've seen some additional crossings. We've seen some additional routes within Gaza. We've seen the adjustments made to the Jordan corridor. We intend to continue to work at this and see more.
And just a second. I mean, but in terms of, even if it was not part of the electoral calendar, I mean, it's. But we're saying, but in terms of if the U.S. isn't taking action at this point, and the clock is ticking anyway, what makes you think that there would be any leverage that the U.S. has at the end toward the end of this?
Well, Sean, I'll just say that we all know what the election result was. I don't need to point that out to anybody. But here we are, about a week and a half after that, with some new progress points that we can point to, with some actions that the Israeli government has taken that we think would not have happened had it been for U.S. intervention. So we continue to think that our role, our engagement, our diplomacy has a space. It has a role to play. It has a serious role to play. That is at the core of what this secretary and this president believe. And we're certainly going to continue to engage and work really hard at this. Ultimately, it's at the end of the day not up to us, but we think that it was U.S. engagement that led to these progress points being met, and we're going to continue to work at it.
Can I just do one slightly? Some people might ask more specifically on this. Can I just see one additional aspect on the conflict? Qatar. I'm sure you saw over the weekend the statements coming out about Qatar stepping back a little bit from mediation. Is this a disappointment? Does this show that there perhaps are not as many hopes right now for brokering something?
So first, Sean, let me say a couple things. We have, going back as far as we all can remember, have been explicitly clear with countries around the world that certainly it can no longer be business as usual with Hamas. As it relates to decisions and things that are being discussed between our Qatari partners and Hamas, I will defer to Qatar to speak to that, and I'm not going to get into those private conversations. We're continuing to pursue a number of initiatives to secure the release of hostages. That work is ongoing. We have not given up hope, and it's critical to us to get a deal done as soon as possible, especially so that we can bring the remaining hostages home to their families. They have now been held in captivity for over 100 days in what can only be unimaginable conditions. And so ending the terrible suffering of the Palestinian people in Gaza also is tantamount, and we're going to continue to work at this. Our view is that if Hamas wants a ceasefire, which they claim they do, they need to engage, and right now they're not.
Just a final one for me. I mean, is your interpretation that is it your view that the mediation by Qatar is basically done for the moment? I mean, do you actually see things that are ongoing, or is it? So
let's not forget, Sean, that going back to, I want to say even before the summertime, Qatar, the United States, Egypt have played immeasurable mediating roles. That I have no doubt will continue the role that they are going to play. I'm not going to speculate on what the potential location of Hamas may or may not mean. Again, that is not something I'm going to speak to. I will let others, I will let the Qatari government speak to their own decision making and their own engagements. Saeed, go ahead.